Check, check, check. Back to part 2 of where I left off. I had to intercede in a phone call, important phone call. Okay, so back, where was I? Just sharing my experience about as an artist, and one of my second experiences, this wasn't my first, second experience is having to go to court to collect fees for services I've rendered by clients that didn't pay. And again, it's not something that I like to boast about or brag about. It's not something you feel like, at the time, I was just right out of college. Of course, I was in my early 20s. I mean, it was an undertaking, I think, for me to protect my work and protect myself as an artist and say, hey, you know what? Study the legalities of contracting in your artwork and knowing how to protect your stuff. So, it was the second case. I had a previous case of that. At the time, I was still a student in art college and got contracted freelance to do some work for a supposed magazine, periodical, whatever it was, and never got paid for the work. And I wound up going to court, wound up suing, wound up winning, but then collecting became more challenging. And I'll tell you about that story and some other points, some blog or whatever it might be. But with this other case that was already previously mentioned in the first part of this this live stream, it was bittersweet because as the case had rolled into court and I had requested to have it seen before an arbitrator, not a judge, because like I was saying earlier, a judge can appeal depending on how it falls against whoever the disadvantage. They can say, well, I want this case appealed and blah, blah. But an arbitrator in the small claims court, that's it. It's just done. And I knew enough where I had dotted my I's and crossed my T's, and I produced the work, and I had the work, and I just didn't get paid for it. So that's exactly what came up. When he went to the court, the person who was I filed the case against on the first initial day of court, he didn't even show up. His daughter represented him. And then went in front of the judge, and it's interesting, I'm going through all the dockets, the judge is calling the names, blah, blah, and I got to the last few people, I'm looking, I don't see him, how come he's not here? How come he's not? And his daughter was there. He had to have his daughter or someone represent him legally, otherwise, by default, he would have lost the case, just by not showing up in court. So, his daughter appealed for him. When it happened adjournment, have a delay for another day, XYZ. And then the judge says, okay, well, you have to be here. And then he asked, okay, Mr. McDowell, how would you like to go forward with this? And I said, an arbitrator, okay? Assigned an arbitrator, XYZ. And then a few weeks later, we went to the civil court, small claims, in front of an arbitrator. And what I did in this case, when they asked the arbitrator, okay, here's the case, blah, blah, blah. Who wants to speak first? I let the client speak first. And he went on, yes, he did the work and blah, blah, blah. But at a certain point in time, we realized our budget, we didn't need him and XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And we spoke that I'm not going to be using his services. And then when it was my turn to speak, I said, well, point clearly, it's a breach of contract. I said, because here's the written contract. The work was done. Here's the work. Here's the work his supervisor approved and signed off on. Here's the sketches. This is the dates which payment was due. And then he got back to that point, we were struggling. And then my response was, well, then he could have made a payment plan with me. I'm flexible. You can see here, it says payment option. The client didn't say, hey, can we work on a payment plan? It shows that he made no intent to pay for my services after the services were rendered. It was opening, shut. Arbitrator said, okay, thank you for bringing your testimony, blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, I got in the mail, you've been awarded judgment for the money. And then I got a call from that guy the same day, okay, just come and get your check. And again, it was bittersweet because my way of looking at it is, wow, I got this client and it can lead to other clients. And then who knows? That's how I was looking at it. I didn't go into this thing thinking, well, this guy is going to end up in court. And it was just crazy, but I was able to do that because I had a written contractual agreement. I must have been like 22. But I had a written contractual agreement, and I say this to all artists, especially those who are new in this and you don't know, always have written agreements. Now, what I've done is I went to the Graphic Artists Guild, and they have outline written agreements, or they have like draft written agreements for every part of the industry. If you're going into television and film production, what you're going to do, how much you, and it's good because they give you even rates, like an estimated rate. If you're working on a commercial, what you should charge. If you're working on a theatrical film, what you should charge. And if you're an illustrator, if you're an artist with a gallery artist arrangement, or you're a photographer, if you're a designer, if you're an interior designer, they have all these things outlines. As a creative person, your estimate of what you should charge based on the industry, and it gives you like a template. You can put your name and your logo, me such design, blah blah blah, do the work for this client on this day and time, agreement upon this, dividends of payments, whatever, how much rights you retain. It's the whole thing. And I was fortunate because when I went to my college, one of my professors was a member of the Graphic Artists Guild. He said this to his students, I recommend all you guys get this book. There's a book on taxations and how you can run your art business. And this is one, the Graphic Artists Guild handbook on how contractual agreements. And I got that book when I was in college. I rented that book like a little art Bible. I said, what? And that was what saved me from a lot of loss. And again, I wish it would have had a different outcome. And in hindsight, I did have clients that I've worked with who, and I produce work, and then that check come in, you're like, oh, and here's this, and here's this check, oh, and you said, okay, I put a day's worth of work, I get the check, and it's like, it's beautiful. But I'm just pointing out a couple of things that is pitfalls that you might want to avoid as an entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur, artist. Always have that written outline and have it very detailed about what is the terms and how you're doing business with a third party or second party to get paid for your services and skills. I can think of a friend of mine who years ago had did some work on a film project. Disclaimer, I'm not going to mention the name of the company, the film production company, but it was the late Robin Harris had did it. There was an animated film based on one of his skits called Bebe's Kids, and it became a film, became an animated film. And one of my former friends worked on the character designs for that. Now, I remember him showing me the sketches of designs, but what wound up happening was a good friend of mine was in a very desperate situation. Like we all are as artists, and we like, and the money's thrown at us, and we struggle as artists, and then they see that check. And then after he told me about the deal, yeah, I'm working on this design concept for this animation for this film. And I was like all excited for him. Yeah, cool and everything. And then we just briefly talked. Well, how much you getting for the job? And he told me, and I'm like, say it again? I'm getting paid blah, 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 that much. I'm like, you negotiated what? And then I had a talk. I said, wait a minute. You talking about you're working on designs for a feature-length film with this big company, and all you negotiated was that? He thought about it, and I said, man, you should have asked for startup. Give me such and such thousand for this, for sketches, and then redesigns, give me such and such for this percentage after that. And then at the final cut, when the work is complete and the draft and the designs are done, color comps and all, you get this. And then in top of that, I want to see if I can have a clause where I can negotiate certain points of percentage of residuals, of royalty, if that thing goes into licensing. But of course, we were young, we didn't know. But I was telling him this. And what happened, he wound up wanting to renegotiate the terms. And they were like, nah, this is what you've agreed on. And he decided to pull out. And unfortunately, they wound up suing him for his work that he done for them because he breached the contract. And we as artists, young artists, we fall victim because we get excited, we want to do this, but we have to really do our homework in every capacity. It doesn't hurt to take time to do the homework in terms of, okay, I'm working on this capacity, I'm working in this industry, how much is it going to cost? We all know this, and it's not just artists. I mean, music artists, musicians, rappers, singers. I mean, we know, congratulations to Anita Baker, who recently got her master's. So that's how those big companies work. You get all excited, oh, and then you don't read the fine print. And we all fall for it. And I think for me, I took on the approach that I would rather not deal with you on that level as a business, rather than down the road I get sucked into a deal that seems sweet at first, and in the end I want to lose my soul over it. They want to take everything, and then they making millions of dollars, and you're like, well, I only got 20,000. Yeah, but you got broke off nice, but they making millions of dollars off my designs. No, I'd rather I'll do it myself. And I may not make that much, but at least I'll control and have rights to then maybe make $500,000. I don't know. So, but I want to talk about that. We need to definitely tighten up and support each other and share information with each other in every aspect in how we do business, entrepreneurs, creative people. And again, we got to remove that egotistical, that emotional aspect of us. Again, these are our babies. Our work is our baby. We put so much heart and love to our work, and that's not the issue. The issue is that we have to find the line, fine-tune the line, where we don't get over our head in the emotional aspect. We're not reasoning. Sometimes we deal with each other, and then again, like I've had the experience with that client, and they just got ego and mad. Right? I'm mad. But how you just going to renege the contract and pull out because you mad with something because I'm questioning you when you going to pay me? And then the attitude that you're doing me a favor when I did the work. And we have that same thing where we do business with each other on different levels. We produce something. We put our heart into it. It doesn't work the way it works. You get feedback or no feedback. We get mad. If I'm working with a business as someone who's making candles, and the candles don't smell the way they smell, oh my gosh, and then it's like, oh yeah, I don't know about the scent, and I give them some feedback, and it's not like a public feedback. I'm like, yo, I like what you're doing, but XYZ. And they start getting mad. Well, what do you mean it smell like that? It don't smell like that. Forget, you don't know what that smell like. That doesn't make any sense. One should take that into account and say, really? Maybe something got botched up in the formula. Maybe something didn't come out the way it worked. Maybe I did something. Maybe I had to add a specific instruction that I didn't have that communication, so that way things are clear. And you go, oh, you're right. I didn't read that part. Thank you for letting me know. And you have that customer service type of thing. We have to do that. Otherwise, it's like if we don't succeed in supporting each other and growing and then helping each other out and giving positive feedback. Even if we're doing something that's not perfect or we make mistakes, if we don't know how to handle that and do it right, and we don't, more importantly, communicate and then cross-communicate to share, what's the point? How does our legacy get passed on to other generations? How do we expand? I'm all about, even when I have done stuff, when I've created stuff years ago, and I did T-shirts, and I would buy special paint, little puffy paints, and the paints would fall off. People would say, I bought this, and the paint came off. And I'm like, oops. And I know that it's something contributing to the actual paint, the pigment. What I've done, I'll ask the customer, do you want another one, replace it with no charge, or do you want your money back? I got to find a way to make it right for them. And then, okay, I'll get another one. And they get that. And then what I do is I monitor it. If I see that customer down the road following up with them, hey, how's that thing? Is it better? Yeah, that was better. If I find out it's a continuous problem, I discontinue that product line. Because to me, it's more about my name. Well, I got too many people complaining about this specific thing. Let me stop that and do something more improved. We have to. But I just want to share that with you guys. And just also some follow-up. And yes, I'm officially branded. Now, it's funny because I'm seeing it says, hang on, we're telling your followers you've started a live video. And I don't see anyone. But no biggie. I just see myself. But yes, ASG-Artizfacts Studio Gallery is now officially branded, people. And again, like in the first excerpt of what I've posted, the live stream on this, it's important for all of us as entrepreneurs, At some point, you have to invest in your business to protect your business. You have to invest in protecting your brand. When I went to the U.S. Trade Office, I saw lots of ASGs, but I had to make it distinguishable in how it tied into my specific brand and what it represents, and the logo and the slogans attached to it, so that way my audience would know that is me selling this, and this is the quality of the service I offer. So I'm going to really wrap it up on that. Please hit me up, share your comments, and just keep the vibe going. Oh, well, I have a little bit of time. Let me share also what I want to talk about with the film project. For those of you, the sci-fi film, blank, 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 those have been following me in my stream going back to September. I did a Kickstarter campaign. Now, this is what I've learned, and I wanted to share this, and I've been itching for a while to share this. I've learned something from this, and now I'm looking at this as a learning experience. I kind of retracted back from that project in the phase of promoting it the way I was doing it in terms of fundraising. I'm still working on, bits and pieces in terms of the production phase of it. But I realized something with those campaigns, that they work the same way many other social media campaigns or social media sites work. They work based on an algorithm. And when I read the fine print, make sure you have at least 10 people, because it's an algorithm. Like you have the Book of Faces or the Gram, that if you have a certain amount of audience, it doesn't go wide stream, because it looks at it like, oh, well, you don't have enough followers to make it authentic, and the algorithm won't put it out there. Okay, so what I realized was that the people who were supporting me, because it was under a certain amount of total people at a certain amount of time, it wouldn't hit the stream where people could organically see it and go, wow. Another thing I've learned with that fundraising campaign is that when I first signed on, I first launched, I found it interesting that there were a whole lot of what I call campaign vultures, that on the first day I pressed that button, launch, boom, I was getting hit up with a whole bunch of other companies like, hey, we can promote your campaign, and hey, you pay this, we can promote that. And I'm like, I just pressed the button. How do they jump? Because they're, for some reason, the way it's set up, by default, you have these campaigners that are soliciting you for you to pay them to advertise and promote your product. And then there was one I came across and I found it suspicious, and it said, yes, for this amount of money you pay, we'll give you live and bots. I'm like, bots? You mean like fake people to promote? And that's how the algorithm works, because it registers, yeah, these people like it, these people are supporting it, these people, and then the algorithm says, hey, look, it looks good, this must be on top, so everyone else should support this. And I know that's a fact because of when I used to promote using another platform, Bright Events, speaking in code, Bright Events, and I would realize that whenever I would have live venues, I would have shows where I would say, hey, I'm having a paint and sip, and these are the ticket prices, and you have to pay this for tickets, and I would notice that I would have spots for like maybe 40, 50 people, and then maybe 1 or 2 people would actually sign on. And this is how you know they were authentic people, because they had to swipe that card. They had to use their actual ID. This is my name and the last 4 numbers of my credit card, and that's how you know it's a real person. But then when it became to free events that I would post, and I would have 50 people, the venue in terms of the response would fill up like, I got 35 people willing to attend. Like, wow, that's great, 35 people. And then the day of the event, I'm like, where are the people? Because they were bots. They weren't real people. And that made it look like, wow, crowdfunding, so that way that site could look like these are the number of people that are actually engaged, and in reality they're not. And then I did my homework. Let me go to Google and ask the question, Google, does this site, Bright Events, use bots? And it confirmed. So it's part of artificial intelligence, and they use the algorithm to make things look bigger than it is. It's the same way that when you use security features to log in, they use a CAPA as a code to make sure you're not a bot trying to spam in to their account, to your account. And so they use the bots both ways. They use it as security, and they also use it to crowdfund and make it look bigger than it is. And I was like, wow. So I stopped using that site, and I just do campaigning the way I normally do, through here, through my book of faces. And I'm going to go really back to the authentic, old-fashioned way of mail order. There are certain businesses where you can create your promotional cards, and then you buy a mailing list, an authentic mailing list in your area, your region, demographic area, and you pay a certain amount. I want to pay this amount of fee, and I want to subscribe it to 10, 20,000 people. And then they print up your promotion, and then they send it out. Now, the way you test that is you do one of those with your own address in it, and then you'll get. And an example of this would be, like, here's one of my promotional cards. I used to do my paint and sips, for my studio. But there are companies that you can have your promotional material attached to a mailing list, and then they will send out to actual live people, like actual addresses where people live, residents. And then the thing I found about the psychology behind this, when I've done the research, when people want to participate with events, they like to hold something. They like to go, oh, okay, this looks cool. Once they touch it, it becomes more real to them, authentic. There are a higher percentage rate of them participating. Because I've done this, and I've had people show up with the card. Oh, yeah, I got this in the mail. I'm like, oh, cool. As opposed to virtual. So, just one strategy, just to share to help, fellow business entrepreneurs survive when you have events or you want to do showcases of your work or your product. Take some time, invest in an authentic mail order list. Later on, I'll share the information about what some of the sites I use for mail order list and things of that nature. Well, on that note, that's the update about the film project. Film project is taking a little side curve, but I'm still in production. And I had to do it that way because I realized the content and the subject matter and just the creative aspects I'm doing, I got to do it a little more stealth. So I looked at it as a way, it was a blessing in disguise. Like, don't put out too much. And of course, I'm still managing Paint and Sips, which I'm doing again. Got the branding now going on, and there's a whole lot of legal things I'm still finalizing with that and branding my products. Film project, getting back in the swing of that, say January-ish. When everyone's cold and who don't want to go out, okay, I'll be in the studio. By that time, when people don't want to come paint sip, okay, I'm going to convert the studio. Green screen, chroma key, LED light, model, special effects, and then I'm going to share with you guys some updates, the live that I'll be doing live from ASG-Artizfacts Studio Gallery behind the scenes. Just quick little 30-second little quick, here we go, and this is what we're doing. So you can see it's authentic, my authentic self. All right, people, much love. Keep the vibe up. Keep it going. Hang in there. Keep doing your thing. Struggle is real. We're tired, but we got to keep it going. I'm going to have me a sip of wine, because I think I deserve a sip of wine. Yes, and I'm going to cheers for us, for those who are doing this and hold me strong. And for those who are struggling, I'm going to give out positive energy for you guys. We can do this, okay? Cheers. Peace. Let's do this. I'll catch you later.